Welcome to StoryNews English, where world events meet English learning. Today, I will share with you an intriguing story titled, China Start Trade War with EU. This is not just a story about tariffs and trade, but about power, politics, and the lives of millions of people who will be directly affected by these decisions. It is also about how two of the largest economic blocs on Earth may reshape global commerce, technology, and even political alliances in ways we have not yet fully understood. Have you ever wondered what would happen if China, the world's second-largest economy, truly launched a trade war against the European Union? Would it mark a turning point in global economic history? Or is it merely a tense bargaining game between two powerful blocs? The numbers are staggering. More than $850 billion of annual trade between China and the EU is now at risk. Behind those numbers lie millions of jobs, thousands of companies, and billions of consumers, whose futures may be reshaped. Beyond economics, this story also raises questions about trust, about whether globalization itself is entering a new phase of fragmentation, and about how smaller nations might be forced to choose sides. The trade tensions escalated when the European Union announced anti-subsidy tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. According to the European Commission, Chinese automakers receive massive state support, making their EVs 20–30% cheaper than similar European products. This threatens the very core of Europe's automotive industry, especially in Germany, France, and Italy, where car manufacturing is not only an industry, but a cultural identity. Beijing responded immediately, declaring countermeasures targeting European agricultural exports, wine, and even airplanes. $45 billion of trade could be disrupted. This is not merely a warning shot, but the opening salvo of a fierce economic conflict that could spill into technology, energy, and security cooperation. The drama intensified with emotional reactions on both sides. In Berlin, thousands of auto workers took to the streets, demanding that the German government seek a compromise. Their fear is not abstract. Entire towns and regional economies in Germany depend on the automobile supply chain. Meanwhile, in Beijing, state media denounced Europe's disguised protectionism, vowing that China would not back down. Anxiety spread quickly. European automakers rely heavily on Chinese markets, while French and Spanish farmers fear losing one of their biggest buyers. Analysts warn that if this trade conflict escalates, it could spark a global economic storm, just as the US-China trade war did in 2018–2019. But this time, the stakes are different, because Europe and China are each deeply interconnected in supply chains, and neither side is as willing to retreat. The potential consequences are enormous. European consumers will be the first to feel the pinch, with higher prices for goods ranging from EVs to everyday foods and wine. Chinese companies such as BYD and NIO would lose vital market access, risking billions in revenue and slowing down their ambitions of global expansion. Beyond these immediate effects, global supply chains could face dramatic shifts. If Europe limits imports from China, nations in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Latin America could rise as alternative suppliers, reshaping global trade maps for the coming decade. Politically, the United States is poised to exploit the situation, strengthening its alliance with Europe and consolidating its position against Beijing. But this alignment could also push China to deepen its ties with Russia, Africa, and Latin America, accelerating a geopolitical realignment. From a wider perspective, the current trade conflict between China and the European Union cannot be reduced to a simple tariff dispute. It is far more complex, a contest for trust, influence, and ultimately the authority to shape the future rules of global commerce. China is determined to show the world that it cannot be pressured or marginalized. Through its state-driven economic model, Beijing is signaling that it can challenge the dominance of Western liberal market economies, especially by leveraging its leadership in emerging sectors such as green technology and renewable energy. On the other side, Europe faces a profound dilemma. Should it impose protective measures to safeguard its domestic industries, risking retaliation and higher consumer costs, or should it continue relying on Chinese goods and investment, particularly in areas where Beijing already holds a decisive advantage? This uncertainty is amplified by the way the world is watching. In Asia and Africa, some nations perceive opportunities to benefit from supply chain realignments, seeing themselves as potential new manufacturing hubs. At the same time, other regions express deep concern, fearing that prolonged instability will fuel inflation, disrupt trade routes, and undermine fragile economic recoveries after the pandemic. The ripple effects of this confrontation will extend beyond markets and factories. They will influence alliances, reshape diplomatic strategies, and potentially redefine how globalization itself will evolve in the years ahead. Personally, I do not believe that either China or the European Union will emerge as an outright victor. Both sides are likely to endure significant costs, whether in lost markets, strained industries, or weakened public trust. The true burden will fall on ordinary people: German workers whose jobs depend on exports, Chinese farmers whose goods face new tariffs, and European consumers who must pay higher prices for everyday products. Yet, history shows that every crisis also opens the door to renewal. The essential question is whether the world can seize this moment to create a trade system that is fairer, more transparent, and genuinely sustainable. If this trade war ends up rewriting the rules of global economics, one must ask, who will hold the pen to draft its very first lines? If you found today's story insightful and want to continue exploring the world while learning English through real, meaningful events, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode from StoryNews English. Thank you for watching the video. I wish you good health, happiness, and prosperity.